Hey guys, so I'm Lisa. I'm a new school librarian. I moved from working in a public library to working in a school library. So I thought I'd just make this little series of videos about some of the things that I've learned over my time in a school library, which is of course quite different from some of the other libraries. So one of the main things about working in a school is you're working with students and you have student librarians. So managing student librarians is one of the things that I've found to be the most challenging, especially because I didn't have anyone to train me. I just sort of jumped into this job and started doing it. So when I started, I wanted a way for our librarians to check in, so I knew who was coming and who wasn't coming. So the first thing I made during term 1 was this little student librarian roster folder. So in here I painstakingly went through all of the days and I labelled them all, like Monday lunchtime, Monday interval, Monday after school, etc, etc. And each of them has a little form where they could put their name and write the dates that they had come to library duty. Rewards were another thing I really wanted for my student librarians, but I wasn't really sure how frequent. So to begin with, in this first term, I set it up so they would get a reward for every 4 library duties they came to. I also set it up so they could get a reward for shelf tidying. So every time they came in and did a shelf tidy, they would tick it off, and once they'd done 4, they would get a reward. However, I found this was just way too many rewards, especially because I have about 20 to 30 librarians on sort of during the term. So at any one week there could be 30 librarians coming through, so that was a lot of rewards. So this term I've done that a little bit differently. Also, the other thing I had trouble with was the shelf reading, because I got them to tick it off themselves, and of course they would tick that they had done it when often they hadn't, or they just glanced at the shelf and they've ticked it off that they've done shelf reading, when of course I would go afterwards and have a look and it would not be shelf read at all. So that was one thing I learned from term 1. So in term 2 I did my check-in a bit differently. So what I've done is I've made just a little check-off list. So it's got all of the names of my student librarians, so for interval and for lunchtime for the week, and then it's got the weeks of the term. So each week they come in, they just tick off that they've been here, and then at the end of the term I'll give them a reward. I've also told them that for shelf reading, I haven't really got a system for it at the moment, in terms of allocating shelves. I've kind of thought about, but I'm not quite sure that's going to work, especially because during lunchtime, which is when we get our student librarians in, there's often a lot of students in here, and so it's quite hard for them to shelf read a particular area because there'll be kids in front of the area often, and lots of the time they can't get to the area. So I'd rather they sort of just do whatever area is free, but I haven't quite worked out a system of doing that yet. At the moment, generally if someone tells me that they've done shelf reading, I'll go and have a look, I'll check it's all tidy, and if it's good enough, I'll give them a lollipop or something like that. So that's the system I have at the moment, but I'm thinking of maybe trying to think of something else to do for next term, but still haven't quite worked that out yet. But yes, this tick off system and the one reward at the end of the term is definitely a lot easier than this crazy folder system that I came up with in the first term. So if anyone has any ideas of how I can get my students shelf reading and how I can keep an eye on that without being sort of directly behind them all the time, that would be a great. I'm very keen for suggestions, and I'd love something that would sort of make them self-motivated rather than me having to tell them to do it. So yeah, any suggestions would be more than welcome, and yeah, so that's my learning so far for the first 2 terms of working in a school library. Thanks.